Welcome to the Myself Wellness Podcast. I'm Charles Patty, the voice of Myself Wellness, along with my co-hosts Christina Thomas and Jamie Venziel. 9 years ago, I began my journey to self-awareness and healing. Like many who have faced personal struggles, I felt lost and struggled to find lasting healing. It wasn't until I discovered alternative healing methods that I began to see a real change in my life. This show will help you unlock your true potential through healthy lifestyle practices and transformations. Join us as we explore personal stories, expert advice, and practical tips to help you step into your true potential and level up. Welcome to the Myself Wellness Podcast.
Welcome back to the Myself Wellness Podcast. We are here today with Carlton, Washington. I am stoked to jump into this conversation. Christina, what's going on right now? Normally we got Christina on the couch with Charles, but we got a little bit of different setup today. What's going on?
Well, you'll have to excuse my face because yesterday I did a Moxie laser and PRP injections for under my eyes to rebuild some collagen. But it goes well with today. The synchronicity of the universe brought us Carlton, Washington from Forever Young, and they offer a variety of different anti-aging solutions.
No judgment.
So how's it going, man?
It's good.
Yeah.
Glad to be here. Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming on the show. We
I appreciate it.
you. So I guess let's kind of like start with, with Forever Young. I know some of the background, but what made you passionate about getting into it?
Well,
or starting the company, I'm sorry.
I was passionate about getting into it because I was a patient of hormone replacement therapy prior. And so it really kind of changed my life. It helped give me back life, and it helped optimize my life at a time where I was seeing transition and changes in my peers, just people around me. And so I knew it worked. And then I actually tried to get into the industry. And I remember being in the office in Atlanta. It was just a really sterile office, and it was one employee and one nurse, and people were just coming in and out. And so I started doing the numbers one day in the lobby. I was like, damn, this is a great business, but it's like so boring and plain, and they don't even care. It's like, but I still keep coming. And so one day I finally asked one of the owners who was in town, I was like, hey, can I talk to you guys, about maybe getting involved, maybe I can invest or something like that. And they blew me off. And then I went back to the nurse, and the nurse was like, yeah, she's like, it's not happening. She's like, these guys just bought a jet to go visit all the other offices. They're just killing it. And so I forgot about it. And long story short, I ended up moving to South Florida reluctantly. I tell people this story all the time. And I went into depression because I had to go back into a career that I didn't want to be in. I was miserable. I wasn't living up to my potential, and I knew it every single day. And so I was waking up on the side of my bed every morning in my underwear with just my head in my hands. And I was just so down and out that, to make a long story short, I thought I would be willing to risk it all just to do anything else. And as I started deducting what I did and didn't want to do, I was like, well, this is something I can stand behind. I know it works. I can speak to it. I can represent it. And I can sleep at night knowing that I'm not selling snake oil. I'm not hurting people, and that this will change people's lives. And so I went for it. And it was as simple as that. And it was just a desperation move to do something different with my life because I just didn't want to do what I was doing anymore.
What you just said right there, I resonate with so incredibly much, just because I didn't know that aspect about this story, and like that's why we started doing what we did. Everything starts good with us. Everything amazing starts with a leap of faith, I think.
I do believe so.
And it seems like, you were mission driven, and you wanted to help people, and you wanted to give them a better quality of service, and you really believed in what you were doing. Yeah. So I commend you for taking that leap of faith, man. That's
thank
awesome.
You. Yeah, it's funny. I just got off the phone. I have a really good friend, probably one of my best friends, and I talk to him every other day. He's like my advisor. And the last time I told him before I got off the phone today, I was like, I hope you lose your job today. I hope you get fired. I really hope you get fired. And he was like, dude, why are you saying that? I was like, I really hope you get fired because I want you to experience the same thing, Yeah. And so I really, and I meant it. I really hope he gets fired because, he's another person I know has so much potential, but sometimes if you're not willing to take the leap of faith, someone has to push you off the cliff, And so it's the same type of thing, but sometimes some people need that. They need to be pushed.
I wanted to understand because the way that you guys differentiated in the space for your guys was kind of similar. You went into a office one time and it was completely doctor's office feel. Why is it important, just from both of your guys' perspective, to have that feeling when you're doing these services and you're trying to, like, why should it not feel like a doctor's office is, I guess, my question.
It's probably going to say the same thing, I would assume, because from what I know of him, he's a user of his services, right? And so same here. And it's a representation of yourself, first of all. So I'm going to assume that we're both don't enjoy those type of environments. You go into a doctor's office, dentist's office, and that sterile feeling, it's very cold. It's hard for you to get comfortable. It's hard for you to really relax, and it's also not something that you really want to go back and forth to. Usually it's a routine thing when you're going to an office, or usually it's something you're dreading once a year, or you're getting bad news. You don't want that to be associated with what we do, because I'm assuming we are trying to help people feel better and feel good and feel comfortable and relaxed. And those offices don't speak to that.
No. The number one thing when people say, when they come to our clinic is, man, it feels so calm in here. And I believe that level of calmness that they feel really just allows them to be open and to keep coming back and bring their guard down and to be open to healing.
When you're going to, or when I would be going somewhere that I'm trying to like heal and take my life to the next level, and like I would want to feel very calm and at ease and be able to relax and not feel like I was in a clinical setting. I mean, listen, you can have a medical facility that does not feel like a medical facility. And a lot of people have medical trauma, like they've gone to doctors and they had very uncomfortable or traumatic experiences. And so, I mean, especially with us, when a lot of people come to us, they're coming to us specifically for something like that. So when we started, it was like, let's make this a medical facility that feels the farthest thing away from a medical facility that we possibly can.
Yeah. And also, if you go to the new children's hospitals now, the children's hospitals are amazing. They're awesome. I just went to I think it's Joe DiMaggio's in Fort Lauderdale, and they have gaming centers and furniture that's like integrated into the walls, and that you can just like contort yourself in. And they have dogs walking around for the kids, and cartoons and toys. And it's like, okay, that's cool for the kids, but what about us? Like maybe like someone's dying down the hall, or maybe like I'm dying, like I would like to feel, I just came from hospice this Saturday in a room, like we were talking about, a sterile room. I'm like, I don't want to go out like this, man. It was the worst way to go out. Old furniture, bed was falling apart. And you're like, this is how I'm going out? I'd rather go out in a cool environment, at least, honestly. Yeah. And so it's just, I think it's an old way of thinking.
My mom works in family patient experience in traditional healthcare systems. And she worked in Mayo Clinic. So she worked in like big traditional hospital systems. But the patient and family experience aspect, she said the second you walk in a facility is when the healing starts. And it should for most people, because what do we know about anxiety and stress? It's like one of the number one causes of more disease, more pain, more everything like that. So going into a facility where you feel comfortable the second you walk in, now I feel like is a more of a requirement than ever. But I agree with your point where we can't treat the adults differently than we treat the children. It's like you should feel comfortable. You should have a lot of things to do. Our buddy Jace is finishing up he's been in the hospital in the last 4 months, I think, for a total of 30 days. And he's miserable. He can't go outside. All he can do is just pace around the hospital floor. And it's just like, I don't know if that's making things better or worse.
Worse. It is worse, because if you also look at just wellness in general, if you ever go to the hospital and see what they feed you, if you ever go look at the lighting, if you ever go look at just every aspect of the hospital, they don't allow you to rest, by the way. So like if he's in a room, they're waking him up, they're doing vitals, they're poking products, so he never gets to go into sleep. The whole situation is ass backwards, dude. So it's definitely not helping.
That's one thing I really respect about the way that you're operating and why you started doing what you were doing also, is that like you looked at a broken system and you're like, hey, listen, like, I don't agree. I'm not really in alignment with, the paradigm of the way that things are being done. And I think that this could be done in a much healthier and safer way and stuff like that. And like, to circle back on the fact that you were like, listen, like, I really believe in this. And like, I'm not a snake oil salesman and stuff. And like, that's basically like, I'm a really good salesman, but only because of like my ethics and my morals and like, me using the laws of attraction in my life, I have to be genuine about what I do. And so like, I follow your content. I really feel like, I love your message, and I love what you put out there, because I feel like I can relate to it on so many different levels, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Do you see an opportunity, Carlton, where we get to a point where traditional, like what you guys do? Because I was thinking about this the other day of like, I feel like if I was going to help people truly, it would be more down the road of if somebody's dealing with depression and anxiety and things like that, I'd be way quicker to send them to you guys at My Self Wellness than I would to send them to a traditional doctor's office. If I was in my like late 30s and I started feeling depression and I started feeling drag and I felt like I didn't have that spunk anymore, I'm going to be way more apt to go to Forever Young than I would to a traditional doctor's office. Do you see that being the consistent thread throughout the next 10, 20 years? What do you think is going to happen?
No, I don't. And I have to start making this disclaimer now. So I'm not speaking right now for Forever Young. I'm speaking from my own
Yeah.
self right now. That's what, and I put this shirt on right now, kind of, and I was thinking about it because I knew we were going to be talking about today, and I think it's just a war, dude. It's a war that we're talking about, and that's why I'm not speaking for Forever Young, because I don't want to misrepresent what that company is about. But what we're talking about right now is a war. It's going to be a war. People don't want to talk about this, right? What you're doing is disrupting people's P&Ls. What we do disrupts people's P&Ls. And the more disruption, the more it's becoming a problem. And you see what happens when these things are becoming a problem. So I do not believe that that's the direction that we're going in. I believe that it is the direction that some people are going in. And the people, look at who's going in that direction. Look at the type of people. It's like, I wear this Whoop right here. When I go out and I see other people with a Whoop on, they're like a certain type of individual, right? They want to know what's going on with themselves. They don't trust what the doctors are telling them per se. They're going to see the problem that your friend saw in the hospital. They're going to be like, why are you feeding me this type of food, but you want me to get better? I'm measuring my sleep. I want to live longer. And I don't want to just live longer. I want to like be able to go on a date at 70 years old, like that type of individual, whether they're female or male. But those people are fewer than the masses. And I always refer to it as a fork in the road. It's the sick care and it's wellness. The majority of people go down to the left, which is the sick care, and that's the orange bottles all over the kitchen counter, because that is what's marketed, that's what's sold, that's what's influencing and manipulating people, and that's what's easiest for them. It's way easier to sit there, and when the side effects kick in from all the pharmaceuticals, which one thing causes constipation, one thing causes kidney backup, the other thing causes liver issues, and the combination of these, and then you got to take the other thing to take that, and then it causes eventually organ failure, heart failure, all this other stuff. But it's easy, and it's a slow process, so you don't really see it happening. And while it's happening, you're watching your favorite movies and you're eating your favorite food, delivered by Grubhub and Uber Eats. So it's a really slow, comfortable process. And it's extremely profitable process. So on the back end, like I told you yesterday, I invest in evil stocks, because you can buy into the treatments for this. You can buy Merck, you can buy Eli Lilly, you can buy Pfizer, you can buy, what's the diabetes, whatever. There's so many, and they're profitable. And so I don't believe this is the way of the future. I believe it's the way for certain people, a certain segment of the population, and people are going to have to fight for that, which we're having to do right now, because they're already removing a lot of these products and services off the marketplace.
I love all of that. And I love the fact that you look at yourself as a warrior, because that's why, like, one of the reasons why we named our nonprofit the Warriors of Consciousness. I literally feel like it's going to take people to get out there and put themselves in uncomfortable positions where it's like, listen, the entire system is completely broken right now. You know, the pharmaceutical paradigm isn't working. We're slapping Band-Aids on symptoms that don't actually get people any kind of relief. Then you have to take another medication to counteract the side effects of another medication that you're taking. And like, that's one of the reasons why I love what we do, is because, you know, we get people off of their pharmaceutical medications. And it's all about eating like non-GMO and organic and drinking spring water out of glass bottles. And like, I mean, we talk about, you know, I was just at a biohacking expo recently, and they're talking about the amount of microplastics that people are consuming every week. The average American consumes a credit card worth of plastic every single week, which is nuts. And see, it's like, you're out here on the front lines fighting this war as like an individual. And like Christina, I know, and I feel so aligned with that, because it's just the sad part about all of this is that all of the like propaganda and the amount of information that's going out to kind of like hide this stuff from people and not bringing the awareness at all, but to actually like keep it in the shadows, like that right there is the actual war.
Right.
It's sad that everybody's just a number and a dollar sign to most people. They're not cared for anymore. It's just take this, go fill it out, and it just keeps feeding the system. And it's about really breaking the system down and making people feel better at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you probably need to start making disclaimers, because if your message is successful, you are threatening someone's profit and loss statement.
Yep.
And people, when they hear you talk about these type of things, I think your average person, especially the person with the orange bottles all over the table, they hear and look at you as a quack, a conspiracy theorist. Then they're going to look at us, and I don't know what your credentials are. They're going to say, this guy has no medical training or background. He's not a doctor. He's not an MD. He doesn't have a white coat on. What could this person know? I'm going to go with this over here. So there's so many ways in which you're going to be discredited. And if you're really successful in getting your message out, you're not just going to simply be discredited. You might have some financial ramifications. You could have some other ramifications. You might need to say that line, that disclaimer over and over again, like, hey, I'm not depressed. Hey, I would never hurt myself. You know, like, you know, you might need to say that a couple of times, because people don't understand the amount of finance that's involved in this, the amount of profit. I mean, the lifestyle that it affords certain individuals. They don't see it. Most of these people aren't in front of the camera, and most of these people aren't on Instagram. So you don't understand the lifestyle that it affords the people who are promoting these type of things.
There's also like a feeling, why I love being a part of these conversations is because there's days where I'm trying to get food, or I'm trying to eat something, or I'm trying to like, and I feel as though everything in the system is working against me, feeling
Trying to kill you.
the way that I'm trying to feel.
Everything.
And I'm not lying. There's some days where that gets really depressing.
It happened to us yesterday. We were trying to go to a movie. We had an hour before the movie, and I was like, son, today there's no wings, no cheeseburgers, no pizza. We're going to eat something decent. We drove around. We couldn't find anything. We're in Naples, bro. Drove around. Finally, what did we end up eating? The burger, man. But I didn't want to eat a burger. I searched for 20 minutes to not eat a burger. And so like what you're saying, that's the scary part, is that you almost have to put your blinders on, because we don't have the time to have, I don't have the finances or the time right now to have a private chef and to go and pick all of my stuff from a farm. I don't. And so it's kind of screwed, because the more you know, the more this can really hurt your mindset, because you feel defeated.
And it's also the balance of stress as well. So I will be stressed out getting myself to a point where I am eating something good for myself. I'm getting a workout in, and it's like this combination of, I feel like people are working against me, and now all of a sudden I'm stressed out trying to achieve this thing, which for everybody should not be a stress it's less stressful. Like we talk about what's the easiest thing. It's less stressful to put absolute garbage into your body. It's the most easy thing to possibly do than on the flip side to, like, I don't know, feel okay after your meal.
Yeah.
Like
you
it's
know,
almost
what you're
impossible.
eating, and to eat something healthy. It's sad. It's really sad. It's not easy to just go out and eat.
What he was saying, like, it's a war in trying to figure out what to eat sometimes without having to worry about
Especially in our
poisoning
relationship.
yourself. Yeah, I know. Like, listen, like, shout out to Alfie Oaks. Like, we eat at Food and Thought like 4 or 5 times a week just because every single thing in the entire restaurant is organic.
Yep.
You know, but like, it's like, especially here in Southwest Florida, everything's so seasonal that it's all just big chains. It's like there's no little like mom and pop stuff that really survives through everything. And Christina and I were having that conversation the other day.
Well, the reason they don't survive goes back to what we were just talking about. In order to survive as a business, you need a volume of customers, right? The volume of customers is going to whatever, the place that tastes good.
Yeah.
That's where the line is.
Yeah.
Well, and it's cheap to eat there too. It's affordable.
Well,
all of it.
I feel like it kind of was. Now it's like McDonald's is struggling to put a $5 menu on right now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm interested to get the perspective. I don't want to veer completely off, but the idea of transitioning from, because pretty much everybody here worked some sort of corporate job. I had a feeling last year, I wasn't working corporate per se, but I was in kind of that system of like working. I'm not saying working for somebody is bad per se at all, but the feeling of your time is owned by somebody else and some of the mental effects that can kind of come with that when you're not working with somebody who is, let's say, empathetic or people that are just not great leaders. What was the final straw for like you guys, for you being like, you know what? This isn't, like Carlton, you said specifically, you told me yesterday, you were like, I feel like I'm 10 years behind. You're incredibly like, you're not 10 years behind in terms of building a brand, but the thought around being stuck in something and not being able to take that step. I know a lot of people struggle with that.
Well, it's interesting. I'm sure I was watching his story as well, and I think we can probably relate to this. It's funny. Well, Patrick Bet-David, he exaggerates this part of his life, and so does Grant Cardone, by the way. They talk about these little time periods, but for me, I was a delinquent, bro. So when I talk about 10 years of my life, I'm talking about a solid 10 years of my life where I was doing things that were setting me back and harming me. Yeah. Bad stuff, dude. You know what I'm saying? Bad stuff to my body, bad stuff to, to the world. I was not a good person. And so that's where I said, because I know my potential was greater than that. And so it took me 10 years of going through that to snap out of it. But in terms of,
was it a snap though? What did you snap out of it, or was it?
It was 2 snaps. I had 2 snaps. I had one when I moved from DC, when I was like, okay, this is getting really bad. Everywhere I go, people are offering me drugs. Everywhere I go, drugs, alcohol, drugs every night. Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, everywhere. And I was like, if you do not leave this place, this is gonna be the end of you. Something really bad is gonna happen to you, bro. You got to get out. And then I've had a couple other times, where like bankruptcy was a wake up call. But in terms of the last corporate stance, which is the catalyst to Forever Young, was a woman named Susan Stutz. I'm gonna start naming her. Her name is Susan Stutz. She was a horrible leader from SunTrust Bank in the banking industry. Horrible. It shook me to my core, literally, to my soul, to my core. Such a horrible leader. She would come in and I would have to ask the people in my office. I would start like shaking. And I'm not even that type of person. I had to ask him for Xanax. Anytime she was coming around, it was like shaking my core, man. Everything was telling me, don't do this. The way I was being talked to, the way others were being talked to, the fact that this person wasn't capable of doing the things that they were asking me to do, the fact that I was a grown man, I was a 34-year-old guy, and you're speaking to me in this way, you're not leading, you're not encouraging me, and there's nothing about this individual that was inspiring. So it's like, you're the person above me. I don't even want to be you. And I don't want to be the person above you either. So it's like, that was enough to me to be like, man, screw this. And I think the way, I have a lot of faith. I believe in God. It was the pressure of that. And then my peers coming into my establishment, and I'm assisting people with their finances. I'm assisting 20-year-old guys and 30-year-old guys to go buy their Rolls Royce, to go buy their Ferrari. I'm giving them $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 cash and wires so they can go to Vegas. And I'm sitting here in a monkey suit. And so those things were both working at the same time to say, Carlton, get out of here, man. What are you doing? These people, these people are no better than you. And so that was, for me, it was too much, and that pushed me out. And I want to tell people that may watch this, or even if it's my son or you guys, there's nothing wrong with going and getting a job. There's nothing wrong with a corporate job. I learned so much. I have so much financial literacy from my corporate job. I have so much sales and customer service training and role playing that I didn't pay for from my corporate job. And I got to sit for 10 years and learn about people's divorces, people's successes, people's failure, what old people who don't have enough money for retirement look like, what wealth looks like, what it doesn't look like, how celebrity and athlete money is different than business money. All of these things I got to learn because I was having a crash course as a banker in the most intensive financial literacy course you could ever have. And so people need to stop discounting that because you got to learn, bro. That's what you're paying for school for.
That's that level of stoicism that I love, and I share that aspect of. Is that everything was it was preparation. It's like similar, youthful background and stuff, but like all of that was training me to help people. It's like I got to flip all of it, and like he was saying as well, like getting the job and being able to do that. I think listen, I didn't have a job for a lot of years because I was out there running around doing things I wasn't supposed to be doing. And then when I really wanted to get my life together, and I was just like, all right, you know what? I was making a lot of money before I had a job. And then I was like, I'm going to go work at the gym and sell gym memberships. And that was a real humbling experience. That being said, though, working at that gym got me to meet our first medical director. You know what I'm saying? And me actually having to be accountable and showing up and doing things I was supposed to be doing. I mean, I worked for my family's company, my mother's PR company, but there was no accountability. It's like I could get completely wasted and I'd be hungover and I couldn't make, work and stuff like that. And there was never any repercussions. But when I finally got it together, and after Christina got pregnant, and I was like, listen, I got to go back into the PR industry because I need to make some actual money, and then I need to take this seriously. And going through, the 20 years of lessons or trials and tribulations and all of the crap I went through, I'm walking around trade shows, and I was super conscious at this time about being healthy and wanting healthy things for the planet as well, and probably using all of my life experiences for the betterment of people, because if I didn't, then what did I go through it for? And I'm walking around at a trade show, and it was just a real the whole atmosphere is everybody drinks all the time, and a lot of the machines in this industry probably aren't very good for the environment. And then, I'm out at dinner with a couple of CEOs from different companies, and all I could talk about was how, psychedelic medicines ended up helping me therapeutically and helping me heal. And that's when I went back. And after that, I was just sat down with Christina, and I'm just listen, if I went through 20 years worth of misery and I don't use what helped me to help other people, I feel like it was a waste of 20 years of my life, because it wasn't I used to have that victim mentality a long time ago, and I'd be looking up, and I'd be like, God, why are you doing this to me? How come I can't just be like everybody else? Why can't I get my life together? And what I didn't realize at that time was that was actually my greatest blessing. And it wasn't punishment, it was preparation for who I had to become in order to be of service and help other people.
If you went through what you went through, the only way you'd be able to warn people of not to go through that again is hand-to-hand combat, one day after another, and this consistent kind of talking to people. Now we're lucky where we have social media where we can have this conversation and hundreds of thousands of people can hear this and go through this. What would you guys have said to your younger version of yourself we never want to go back and change things, but I think a lot of what social media is for is to talk to that younger version of ourselves. So what would you say to that person?
To sum it up, I think the best would be run towards the fire would be what I would say. Knowing what I know now, it would be run towards the fire. It's not maybe, what I want to say is invest in Google and Amazon, but I'm saying, but I mean, in terms of, in reality, run towards the fire, meaning, hey, look, dude, you got a lot of energy and a lot of time, and the girls will still be there on the weekend and all that stuff. Bust your ass, ask for people to work for free. Partner and rub shoulders with the people you want to be like, and just do whatever it takes. Get your 6 or 7 hours of sleep, go back and do it again, and just keep on doing that. And you are no less than these people. Don't be fooled. You have the same skills, if not more. You're smart, just running towards the fire in every sense.
I think that's one of the things that Ryan and I talk about consistently. We're super, we're obviously 23, 24, almost 25. And the moment we felt like we were outside of the matrix was the moment we felt like we were totally accountable for what happened to us. And it was like this feeling of, I remember that feeling of like, I'm not good enough to be a business owner. I'm not prepared enough to be in a situation where I can go be financially successful or own my time and these different categories. And for me, it was like a wake up call where once I took complete accountability of like, all of this is my fault, no matter if it was a good day, bad day, horrible day, great day, that's when I felt like I was out of the matrix, because I actually built something, whether it was a good day in business or a bad day in business, I at least built something that I was completely accountable for, where I could look at myself and be like, hey, where'd you go wrong here? And I think that that's very painful. And I go through that every day where I feel this feeling of, I feel like if I was in corporate, when things would go wrong, I'm looking around to say like, it wasn't me. Who did this? Why am I?
That's fair, actually. That's fair.
There's
It's
a
like-
certain level of accountability that only you have as a business owner. At the end of the day, there's nobody else that you can look to and point the finger at, because it all comes back to you. And you have to be willing to go through the suck in order to grow and in order to expand and in order to really establish yourself in the space.
I love when he said run towards the fire. It's like there's no growth in the comfort zone. You know, I'm a big believer in manifestation and God starting to send things your way once you actually put the intention behind it. And the truth is that like when we set out on this mission to accomplish our dreams, we're most likely not ready to receive that manifestation or the gifts from God yet. But we start going through like, basically, I like to call it like spiritual boot camp, where we have to grow as individuals. Mm-hmm. And I'm friends with John Schnatter from Papa John's, and he has this saying, and it's go left. And it's basically exactly what Carlton was just talking about. And it's that pick the hard way, because that's the only thing that's going to prepare you to be the person that you need to be and to actually grow into that person that you need to be to actually accomplish things.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, once you realize this, then the second time or third time, I don't believe has to be as hard, because you don't look at the tasks as painful. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So that's why some of these guys, I know there's one motivational speaker, I forgot what his name is, or he says your first million will be the hardest thing ever. But after that, it gets a lot easier. Second and third comes to you because, like for instance, right now, you know, I'm obviously trying to start to do something new. I'm trying to go in a different direction. I was listening to you a second ago. I was like, I think I'm actually trying to get myself canceled on purpose so that I can do this, because it's the most liberating thing, right? When these things happen. And so you want to experience that again. And then the labor and the expense of building something and figuring things out, you start to understand it. And so you're like, okay, it's like going to the gym with the trainer that you hate, but you know he gets the good results. And so now you're just like, okay, cool. I just got to make it through this 1 hour today, and then next, and it's going to be about a month, which probably in this sense is probably going to be about 18 months to come out of that a new person and able and free and strong enough to present what it is that you're looking to do and be good at it. So you can only learn that the hard way, though.
I'm interested to get your guys' feedback on it. When I went through the ultra marathon this weekend, it was a really, really hard day. And I got kind of caught up in this idea of your feelings don't necessarily matter in certain scenarios, in that scenario specifically. And I think about the parallel to what you just said in business. The feeling of pain is the sign of growth. And that sounds extremely cliche, but a lot of times, at least what I've found, is when I'm in a really crappy situation or it really sucks, our initial human instinct is try to get out and try to like avoid it. And then we use our feelings as the byproduct of why we're getting out of something. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to go through this. I don't want to feel insecure, whatever the emotion specifically is. Do you guys, what stock do you put in feelings and emotions in that capacity?
Pain it's a worthiness test most of the time.
Yeah.
So that's why certain people, we get to experience certain things at a certain level. That's why there's always a focus on the 1% and 2%. That's because there's 1% and 2% that are worthy enough to experience these things, and everybody else is NPC, non-player character, and so the feelings. I'm looking at this sign that you have over here, like you have motivational signs on the wall and stuff like that. You're absolutely right. Your feelings don't matter in the arenas of competition, business, sports, all of those type of things. The feelings don't matter. You don't get to have feelings. You don't get to have feelings. We're on high achievers. This is something that really makes it very difficult for a lot of people to communicate with each other once people have reached a certain level. It's also why the NPCs always call rich people all these nasty words and arrogant things, and they want to get the rich people, get them. It's because they can't even communicate with you anymore. You don't even see the same thing when you wake up in the morning. You don't see anything the same, the world the same. And that's the difference in people's circumstance. And so, no, you're not. I always tell people, man, and this is why I'm not, this is one of the reasons I sold majority shares of my company. Your dog died. I don't care. It's not that I don't care, but I don't care in terms of like, we still got work to do today. Your uncle died. Okay, so did mine. Yeah. Last week, but we still have work to do. Now, I have empathy. I understand you have some things to deal with, and we're going to work through that. But you don't get to use that as a reason to have poor production, sucky output, to bring down your team, to bring down your kids, stuff like that. Like I had a friend, his mom passed. Okay, like we grew up with your mom. This is sad. You're a 40-something-year-old dude, but the way they were acting and carrying on in front of the children and the other people was, like, to me, very irresponsible. Because now you're passing that on to them, and it's like, bro, did nobody give you the manual? Yo, you're gonna have like 30, 40 deaths. Death's a part of life. Your dog, when you bought the dog, you thought the dog was gonna live forever? No, your dog's 14 years old. If you read the book, the dog was only supposed to live till 11 years old. This is the reason why you can't work this week. This is the reason why you just can't be around the kids, and you know what I'm saying? Like, or whatever it is, bro, or you broke a bone, or you burned your, whatever. These things happen. And again, that's fine. If you want to let that be the setback for life, fine. But there's quadriplegics, bro. There's, bro, I follow this woman, dude. She has complete atrophy, complete paralysis from down here. She can like literally scale this whole building, bro, and bench press more than us. And she's not, there's so many examples of people not allowing these things to define their lives and whatnot. And so they deserve everything they get. And so to answer your question, no, the emotions and feelings are not allowed in productivity. They're not allowed in winning. You should deal with them. You should address them, but they can't be defining.
Nope.
A saying comes to mind right now, and it's that God gives his greatest battles to his strongest warriors. And there's that warrior statement again. And the truth is like, I'm actually at a place now that when things get really uncomfortable, I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing me how strong I am and how much I can make it through, because you really got some big plans for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
so
saying?
Many times where we've just gotten pushed down, and for a little bit, like it would eat us alive. But now we get pushed down, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Next day, like day goes on, like it doesn't affect us. It doesn't matter us. We just keep pushing forward and just keep going. And you have to have that mentality.
I'm going to also assume, and I got to look, this is a mature topic that we're talking about right now, but I would assume this also speaks to your business and what you guys do, because I've had some experiences, with I'll just say psilocybin, and DMT.
Yeah.
That, not in a party sense or anything like that, that have changed my perspective on everything, to the point that you brought up the word being stoic. It allows me to be stoic in like burning buildings, you know, with almost everything because of you probably know what it's because of. I don't know what it's because of. All I know is after seeing those things and experiencing those things, and I'm not talking about hallucination per se. I'm talking about feelings of well-being and of peace and enlightenment and all of these different things that people talk about. It's life-changing, especially to a person who's able to be introspective combined with a maximum accountability that turns you into what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe it turns you into a different type of human being.
Once you see, you can't unsee.
Yeah.
And the truth is, and so like what Carlton was talking about earlier, where it's like you just got to keep going. I call that stuff the chatter now. Listen, like I'm super empathic, and it's part of what I do as my business. I work with people and I assist them on their healing journeys. But when I went down to oneness during a psychedelic experience, and I realized that we're all a part of this collective consciousness, and that, like, you know, their separation was an illusion. And I'm not trying to sell anybody on my beliefs. I'm just talking about my own personal experience. I realized that, well, if we're all it, then I guess I can manifest anything that I want. And that in order for me to manifest it, I need to keep my vibration or the level of my being as high as possible. And I need to have laser focus and not concentrate on all of the negative things, because if I am manifesting my own reality, what I concentrate on is going to manifest into my life. So if I'm sitting there and worrying about all of the awful things that are happening in the world, I'm actually attracting that into my life. If I'm focusing on what I can control at this moment, which is what I'm doing with myself and how I'm affecting other people when I interact with them, and being laser focused, and I'm just going to spit it out there, on manifesting a healing organism that is going to transform humanity to a higher state of consciousness. That's where I live. I live with that mission. I go to the gym and I spend time with my family, and I don't focus on anything else. And as long as I keep on doing that, everything's going to be okay. And if it's not over yet. And, you know, back to what you were talking about also, my buddy Nick Stanstonato, he's an amazing public speaker. He's super inspirational, and he's got this, and Nick was born, you know, with no legs, and he's one of the most beautiful people I've ever met. And he has this saying, and it's victim or victor. And it's like, what are you going to be? What do you choose to be? Because at the end of the day, nobody is making you be anything. It's what you choose to be. And today, I choose to be the highest version of myself. And listen, thank you for being transparent with those compounds and what they might have showed you or taught you and elevated you to a higher level of consciousness. Because honestly, like, I think that's what's going to help break the taboos and stigmas associated with this. People like you, who are incredibly, you know, well established and have a lot of respect, for coming forward and saying, listen, like, this stuff changed my life and it made me a better person at the end of the day, or it showed me some things that elevated my life and took me to the next level. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. I think you have to be open to it, though. That's the biggest problem, though. That's the biggest problem with everything that we're talking about right here, and that's what creates the division and the smaller volume of people that achieve, you know, success. And success looks different. I'm not talking about just being rich, but I'm talking about maybe even just reaching a point that he's talking about. You have to be willing to be maximally accountable. You have to also be willing to self-correct and be introspective constantly. It's a journey. And on top of that, you know, we keep on talking about people that have misfortune who are able to see positivity through that. I believe personally that you have to be really, really intentional and aware at all times of your blessings and benefits. Because what I've seen over and over and over again with people, I see patterns. And I see when people do not respect the fact that you have, you know, a foot or 2 feet and 2 hands and 2 fingers, and you're not constantly saying, like, thank God or whatever you want to call it, that I can do this. I've seen so many cases of those being the lessons that people are delivered painfully. to be like, bro, you had it all, and you didn't even realize you had it all. You know, you got to sit down sometimes and be like, man, a lot of us have it all, bro. Like, I don't know what you guys got going on outside of here, bro, but I do know that everybody here seems to be mentally astute. All of you guys have legs and arms and fingers and look like you're breathing without an apparatus or whatever. Bro, that's like a big deal. And that means that you can almost do anything that you put your mind to. And that's not, I guess that is cliche, but it's actually true. And if you're not doing what you want to do, like I'm not doing what I want to do right now, it just simply means that I need to be accountable. Like, look, bro, you're too lazy to do what you say you want to do right now. You're not doing activities, because we could all write on the paper a diagram to get to what we want, but most of the time we're not really willing to do that.
I experienced early on in our business, my business partner Jason and I, we were in like this mastermind group, and there's this kid. Everybody was struggling to get clients. It's always the hardest thing to do when you start a business, like find clients. And we were very, very early, and we were on a call, and this guy said that every morning he would wake up and he would send somewhere close to like 250 Instagram DMs before he would even eat. Before he would put any food into his body, he would literally do that. And sometimes it took him until 2 p.m. that day, 3 p.m., all the way. And at that time, we're frustrated. Me and him are mad. We're like, what? Why? What is preventing us from being able to get to this level in our business? And we had a really good sit down one day, and I go, we don't want it bad enough. And the second we are okay with that being the reality, you have two choices: do something about it, or lower your expectations because you're not willing to pay the price. And that was like the most liberating feeling, because I go, this isn't a matter of I'm not talented enough, I don't have what it takes. Like, he was in a worse off situation than I was at that time. I was like, this is a decision of, do I want it bad enough? And it was liberating. And we ended up obviously making the right decisions from then on. But it's funny, we come back to the same two things: inputs and expectations. The biggest thing that people undersell is the inputs, and the biggest thing they oversell is their expectations of themselves. And it's why we have skyrocket in depression, skyrocket in anxiety, because all we're talking about, and what I've learned so much from you guys, there's always hard work to be done, but it's staring at the bottom of the mountain and looking up it and being like, I have so much further to go, which actually causes the anxiety. And that's what makes things so debilitating, because you're looking at things from I still have all this way to go. And it's not necessarily fair to you because you haven't done any of the work to get there.
Yeah. No, and listen, to circle back on what Carlton was just saying, it's like the first thing that I do when I wake up in the morning is I open my eyes and I go, I am grateful. I speak it into existence immediately, because God has this funny way of, if you're grateful, he'll give you things to be grateful about. And if you're not grateful, he'll give you stuff to be not grateful about, and show you that things could always be worse than where you're at. I feel like we can't level up or accomplish the things that we're set out to accomplish until we're grateful for everything that we have going on right now in our lives. And and with what you were just talking about, looking too forward in the forward in the future, that's where anxiety does come from. And that's where, like, Ram Dass had this saying, and it's like, be here now. Be here now in the present moment where everything's okay. And like, the only thing I can do is like work on things here in the present moment. Yesterday's depression, tomorrow's anxiety, but right here in this very present moment, everything's okay.
Yeah, people, it's interesting. If you look on social media, you post something like this, and a lot of people will talk negatively about what you're saying, as if, because it's not academic, it's not in a book, it's not taught in school, and we need to start talking about these things as if it is a fact. This is just as factual as what you read in biology class in high school. This is just a fact, like 2 + 2. People have not certified what we're talking about as facts. No one gives any credit to the spiritual world. Nobody gives any credit to just the connection between your physical and your mental and the spirit that truly, truly exists. And that I believe people who have achieved greatly in this world understand and respect a lot of the time. And so it's hard to get these messages across to people, because you're gonna have some kids sitting there like, who the F are you, bro? Like, saying this stuff. You sound like a quack.
Yeah.
You sound like a quack, man.
Yeah.
And it's not because he's necessarily attacking you. It's because you're not certified. You're not, what's the word? What's the, that they do for the colleges when you're not accredited, right? And accrediting is a way that people can control knowledge and information, and saying that what you're saying is completely asinine and this is the way. And no one's saying that this is the way, yet we know it's the truth. It's a fact that shows up every single time.
Yeah. You know, listen, I agree with that. And I think that one way that we can shift this paradigm is to actually being in tune with your spiritual being, or the spiritual aspects of life, is actually the new cool thing, man. Listen, even like in hip hop, you had guys like Nipsey Hussle, and you got NLE Choppa and stuff like that. And like they were super. NLE's still alive. He's super enlightened. He talks about meditation and vibrations and all of these things. And I think that like you have to be successful. You have to, because listen, like, you see, here's where I differ. Okay. A lot of the spiritual gurus from years ago, these guys would, sit around and they would have their community of people that they would talk to, and it would just be this isolated thing, and they were kind of like wearing robes and everything and stuff like that. And it's like, they weren't working out and they weren't taking care of themselves and stuff. I'm like a different aspect of the new spiritual kind of person, where like it is mind, body, and spirit. Like, I go to the gym and I work out 5 days a week. I do meditate, I sauna, I eat incredibly healthy. And it's like I'm becoming the best version of myself so I can go out there and rock it on a daily basis. And see, I don't look at the older gurus and stuff like that, and like I would never even put a label on myself, like anything like that. That's not what I'm aspiring to be, because like at the end of the day, I believe that we're all we're all one, and that I am you and you are me. So there's no hierarchy. But the thing is that like I want I didn't look at any of them like somebody I would want to emulate. But like I look at some of the guys like now that are talking about this stuff. I mean, listen, even though like I don't agree with some of the messages that Wes Watson puts out, because he's really hardcore about stuff, and I do like a lot of his messages, and I do believe he's talking about frequencies and raising your vibration and using the laws of attraction and manifestation and doing all of these things. But like, I mean, people look at him and they're like, oh, he's a bad dude. Like, oh, like it's like a whole different paradigm of like spirituality that people are talking. And so it's like, I don't know, like I want to embody all of it, the mind, body, spiritual aspect. And I want to be somebody that my son looks up at and says, that's a cool dude. That's a bad dude. I want to be like my dad, not like be like the other people that probably aren't living by those spiritual guidelines.
Yeah, I have that conversation with my dad all the time about what you just said, because my dad's a Baptist minister, and as he's gotten older, there's been some health complications, and he's on that left side of the track where he's taking some medications that don't necessarily make him feel well, and he has been a saint not his whole life, but to the latter part of his life, being someone who's righteous, who walks the walk, but the physical is impeding the walk. And I'm like, Dad, it all goes together. If you want to maximize the amount of help and assistance and teaching you can do, you have to, I'm seeing it clear as day. You have to, in order to help, you have to have respect for the physical. So you don't get to just do without working on yourself and making sure you're maintaining that. And we always talk about it. If you're grateful to whatever it is you believe in, if you believe it's a gift, the greatest sign of gratitude you can give is to take care of it, bro. It's like, if you give me your Ferrari, I'm not going to put scratches on that thing. You would kill me if I put regular gas in your Ferrari. You'd kill me if I took it to like Firestone or Tires Plus or something to get the oil change. We don't do that. Why? Because it's your Ferrari, bro. And so people don't understand that, and it sucks. And so we can't help people unless we help ourselves first. It's the airplane thing. You know, you got to put the mask on first, dude. You can't help anybody if you can't help yourself. If you're sick, you can't help. You know, and in terms of the Wes Watson, we were talking about this yesterday. Wes Watson, it's like you love to hate the guy because when he's in his lane talking about those things, it's life-changing. I've read and researched based on those things. Those things are true. Those things do work. I believe he has been able to manifest a lot of those things. I think he learned it in a dark place. But at the same time, I think we're all working on ourselves to act as if you have it all and to act as if you got it all figured out. It's a lie. Yeah. And especially when you're like pumped up with steroids, you know, you're on trend, all the stuff that he's on. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Telling these young guys, like, you got to look ripped, rich, and rare. But bro, like, you're on a lot of anabolic steroids. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know this game, dude. Like, you don't look like that. Nobody looks like that. Your skin is dried out. You know, your vascular, it's all over the place. That's anabolic steroids, guys. And that's roid rage when you see him up on stage talking all that crazy shit. And so you can't be your highest self and practice all these principles that Wes is talking about while you're having like manic steroid rage, okay? And telling all these young men that that's how they got to look, because I'm going to tell you the truth, as ripped, rich, and rare as Wes Watson looks, that's not going to stop the Black Widow heart attack that's coming, or, you know, whatever else that's going to be a symptom of all the anabolic steroids, like every other bodybuilder I know who's died. And I could just start naming them off. So it's a lie. And anybody who's not admitting to you that they're on their own journey and that there's good here, like Carlton, Washington, there's a lot of good. There's also a lot of bad that we're working on, right? And we're trying to repair from the past. I could be doing better. I could be a better father. I could definitely be a better husband. I could be a better community server. There's so many different things we can do. And if the people that you're following aren't willing to admit that, you should be a little weary of that, because none of us are perfect. And anybody who builds themselves up with these facades of perfection and I am him and the best, it goes into the gratitude piece that we're talking about. That's the hardest falls. That's when the hardest falls happen, because a lot of time you're being allowed to build yourself up to this to reach your next hard lesson.
You know, listen, I love that you talked about this subject, and it's something I haven't spoke about yet. And like, I'm really into fitness, but before I met Christina, I was running a lot of gear. I was like on tons of stuff, man. And the fact is that I was not the person that I needed to be. Like, when I was running trend, I would get angry. I would get so angry. I would like lose the air in my lungs because and the fact is that after Christina got pregnant with our son, I stopped taking everything, man. I was like, you know what? It's not about me anymore. It's not about, and then I had to ask myself, because of like, you know, if you're going to say that you're even in the least bit enlightened, you know, I had to ask myself, if I was the last person on the planet, would I take all of this stuff? No. And the answer was absolutely not. So then it's an ego play. So it's like, it basically, for me, and I'm not speaking for anybody else, but it stemmed from a place of insecurity and ego. Like, you know, it's like I needed to feel like I'm him. And I wasn't comfortable enough inside my own skin that I did. So I needed to take all of that stuff to make me feel like that. And to be completely honest, on a spiritual level, it didn't make me the person that I needed or wanted to be. And so I stopped taking all of that stuff, and I'm really happy that I did. So if there's any young guys out there listening, definitely don't take all of that stuff. But so I'm glad we got to talk about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Same experience. I told my son, when he was a baby, I tried to kick him and his mom out of the house, raging on Trin, you know? And I was like, doing this, but then I'm like, I could see myself doing this, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, who is this person? But I couldn't stop. It was just like pure rage, you know. And so it's absolutely true. And some people get themselves in trouble with that. And more people need to speak out and just about the bodybuilding in general. Like, people don't understand. A lot of these guys die like in their 30s and in their early 40s. A lot of them. And people just, enough is not being talked about it. And these NPC organizations and all these bodybuilding organizations are like promoting it. And what you're promoting now is basically who has the most stamina for enduring the most amount of drugs that you can be on at one time for the longest amount of time without dying. That's what like the heavyweight bodybuilding is today.
100%. Listen, you got guys like Dallas McCarver. Bodybuilding is like my favorite sport. I love bodybuilding.
He was a friend.
Was he really? Yeah, and and that's a really sad thing that happened to such a young guy with so much potential in front of him. And like listen, like I don't know how I would even accomplish. Like there's so many different angles of like the war that's being fought, but like I think that like that's one aspect that I'm really passionate about. Listen, I live by the philosophy of observe without judgment and remember that the answer is always love. Because at the end of the day, if I'm observing something, it's usually a lesson that I need to be taught myself if it's something I don't agree with. But that being said, though, like what I'm going to embody in my journey is I'm going to talk about all of the trials and tribulations and lessons that I've learned so I can hope that I can spread that out. And it's what Carlton was basically saying. It's like this energetic attraction. It's like this energetic communion amongst people where like if we're really embodying it and walking the walk and aspiring to be the highest version of ourselves that we can, other people, and especially like our sons, are going to look up and be like, that's who I want to be like, not the guy who's making all of the wrong decisions that we've already learned from. So,
yeah.
I think there's a perspective of, I love being in this seat because I'm 24. I have a lot of time ahead of me, and learning from the perspective, I've learned the most from people telling me where they messed up. And I think that what ends up happening, especially in social media today, there was a big push to sensationalism. Show me your Ferrari. Show me this. Show me that. I think that for some reason, people just had, because entrepreneurship wasn't that sexy yet or hadn't been as popular, I think, as it's been since COVID. Like COVID really like woke people up to entrepreneurship and this big push towards entrepreneurship. But it's sexy until you realize what it takes. Like I talk about this all the time, the 0 to 1. Going from this doesn't exist, this idea hasn't been tried, this nothing of what is in my head is reality, to now it is reality, is the hardest journey through. I feel like the entire process, obviously I'm still young and I can admit to how naive I could still be, but that 0 to 1 and what we're talking about with bodybuilding and the biggest epidemic is that shortcut, because everybody wants the shortcut. That's why debt is so massive. Like our debt has never been higher. Why? Because people want the shortcut to have the lifestyle and show the lifestyle so that they can, again, fit in. I love the perspective of if you were the last person on earth, what would you want? And honestly, if I was the last person on earth, I would want community. I wanted somebody else to do the life with me. And I think that so many people would rather put stake in what they wear, what they do, what the perceived look of them is versus what's actually important. I'm interested. Was there a moment where you're like, like, cause we talked about yesterday with the Rolls Royce thing, like when did for you guys the stuff no longer become the focus? Cause for me, I started entrepreneurship so I could be rich and drive fancy cars and fly on private jets and that whole thing. Like that was a part of the dream. When did it shift for you?
It's just ongoing education. I've always been pretty conservative, especially when I was in banking in Georgia. And so like when I was in Georgia, I drove used cars, and like one time I had an issue one time. I was driving like a 1994 Infiniti i30. I bought it for like $3,000, man. That thing never broke down. And I went to a meeting one day at Starbucks to meet with some attorneys to try to get their accounts come over. And like, they were like, let's walk you to your car. And they walked down. I was like, oh, crap, man. Like, and they saw they're like, that's you? I was like, yeah, didn't get the deal. So I was always trying to balance other people's perception versus my being frugal. Now, I do like nice cars, and I am sick of riding in commercial airlines. That has got to change. But putting my values and my worth and investing in those things, I stopped doing that at a young age because I was always looking to create wealth, and I was learning from people what wealth really looks like and what it doesn't. And so I'm able to really 9 times out of 10 visualize that and break people down when I see them, because the truth of the matter is, to your point with all of the social media and all that stuff, people with money, with real money, bro, don't like liability, don't want to get sued. Showing you all these things create liability, lawsuit. That's why these rappers get killed, posting their locations, all this kind of stuff. Real people with wealth, 9 times out of 10 don't do that. You have some outliers or whatever, they don't do that. And so for me, I ran a lot of expenses through my business. The minute that we just sold this business, I have started offloading everything, because I would never go out and buy a brand new Escalade. I got an Escalade out there, bro. I would never do that. I got the payment transferred to me. It's like, who the hell does this? This is stupid, bro. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm getting rid of that. I got rid of the Rolls Royce, all that, because it wasn't because I couldn't afford it. It was because I have children and dreams and other opportunities I want. Why would I spend that money there when the money could be making me money, right? And so for me, I've always been of this mindset. I always am filling my head on purpose with things that are correcting my behaviors. So what I mean by that is, I personally brainwash myself on my social media. I delete all the big booty girls, all the bikini models, all that kind of stuff. If you look at my social media, it's always like, you're broke. You're broke. You're broke because you're doing this. You need to invest in this. Buy this asset. Don't do this. You're broke. You're broke. You're broke. You're broke. You're broke. You're a bitch. You're a bitch. You're a bitch. You're being weak. You're being weak. You know. So everything on there on purpose keeps me in this hyper like frugal and hyper aware and hyper on guard state that I can't really get too sucked into that kind of stuff. So if you see me with something material, you know, I've probably paid for it in a very strategic manner. And this has happened through my training in the banking, and also through going through a bankruptcy and seeing what that type of stuff can lead to, because it's very, very easy. I don't care if you're making $500K a year, bro. It's very, very easy to go broke by living these lifestyles. The numbers have to line up all the time. You always have to be making more than what you're spending. Most people, bro, do not understand what their Netflix, their Comcast cable, their AT&T cell phone mixed with their power bill, their rent, the snacks, the Uber Eats, the movie theater, and the 2 weekends a month at the club. They have no idea how that interacts with their salary. Zero. They never do this type of introspection or budget. And so I'm deathly afraid of that. And so it's been a while since we realized those things.
I think that like nice things can come from a byproduct of doing the right things. And I think that like putting too much focus on material things is a low vibrational place to be. I like, you know, but like at the same time though, while maneuvering through the matrix, like Carlton was talking about, like not using that wording, that's my wording. I'm not going to put any words in his mouth, but like, you know, if I roll up to a potential business deal and I'm meeting somebody for lunch and they see me get out of a really old crappy car, I might not get the deal. And like, listen, I joke around with Christina all the time too. And I say, listen, when I'm a billionaire, I'm going to wear sweat shorts and a white tee, you know,
100%.
And it's just like, but like, I'm not going to get the respect that I need to get in the meantime on the journey there. And so, you know, it's like, I think the focus that we put on things and what is actually like a priority or what's really meaningful in our lives makes it more or less evil or not. Like if I'm focused on family and service and things like that, all of the other things that need to be used strategically the way that they need to be used will happen. But if I'm just focused on, you know, buying 50 cars and you know, dripping myself down in diamonds and jewelry and stuff like that or whatever, I think it's tacky, and I think it's a lack of real sense or a sense of what actually matters in life. Listen, I had a lot of nice stuff, you know, like throughout my life, and I was never happy. Okay. That didn't bring me my happiness. My happiness comes from family, doing positive things for myself, like going to the gym and being the high that I get from helping people and assisting them on their healing journeys supersedes any high that I've ever got before.
I want to talk about what he's saying again, because I think he hit it on the head. When you see people who prioritize this type of stuff, it is super low vibrational.
Yes.
If you break down Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Prada, these watches, the diamonds, which by the way, I've been told are actually in abundance. They're actually not rare at all. It's all like a big lie. When you meet people who think that this is what life is about, there's very rarely a time you're going to talk to somebody like that and you can carry on a conversation that's meaningful, in my opinion, because you're already showing me what you're about. Not all the time, but 9 times out of 10. And when I meet people who have spouses who are like that, it scares me. It scares me for them. It would scare me to be in business with this type of person, because I've met women who are so about these type of things that like their husbands are like stressed and like working for this kind of stuff. Like if they don't get their gift, if they don't get their watch, their purse, there's a problem, and they got to maintain that. And if that is the focus, then you can never get to understanding what you're talking about at all. It's like talking to a wall, because there is no value in this purse. There's no value. It's a manipulation. It's a scam, And so that's the first of many barriers to actually getting to a point of just basic understanding and enlightenment about some of the things that you're talking about right now. But you also did bring up the point, which is, and I need to clarify this, like I have some Louis Vuitton in my closet. Like my partner has bought me like Louis Vuitton shoes. He bought me my first pair of like Ferragamos. He's bought me my Toomey bags and all this other stuff, all this nice stuff. And I learned from him how to utilize these tools. It's not for me, but if you like Louis, if you like Gucci, if you like Rolex, here we go. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. Like whatever, bro. Yeah. If that's what you need to feel comfortable to talk to me, I'm going to give it to you, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's just a tool. And I come home and then I'm in my shorts and my flip-flops, bro. I wear the same thing every day. I don't dress up or anything. But if that's what you need, it's a tool, but you're getting played.
Yeah.
I'm playing you. You know what I'm saying? You're just the puppeteer. You want to look, here's the watch, bro. You know what I'm saying? Look at my belt. You know what I'm saying? Look at my bins. Like now you buy from me. If that's what it took to buy from me, fine. Yeah. That's like being a chameleon. That's business, but it's really silly, bro. That has no value.
He just nailed it on the head, man. It's like in this society where we've been programmed to consume, a lot of people look at you and they're just like, oh, you don't have those things? Well, then it's not worth my time to talk to you.
Right. And I think the whole message, how you were saying, how do people adopt this message of spirituality and manifestation and all of this? You have to be relatable and you have to have something that people want to order to go back into the matrix and pull them out and bring them to the other side.
And it's so funny from my perspective, being in the position that I'm in. I help people grow on social media. So there's nobody that understands this trigger for people better than I do, because I just view it all the time and I watch the psychology of how it's actually one of the reasons why I still drive my 2010 Honda CR-V. I'm so sick and tired of it. I know the thing that you guys have the perspective of, and what I've been told, you guys have the perspective of this is how you have to play the game. And the thing is, at 24 years old, I still resist that so unbelievably hard. I know that it's probably limited me in certain perspectives. I mean, there's no doubt that I've actually like gone and negotiated deals where when I walk outside, the deal that I just negotiated is more expensive than the car that I'm about to get into and drive off in. And I've lost deals because of it. I know I have, and it's okay. I have to like also admit to myself that I'll be in a position where I can kind of play that game when I get there, and when I want to, like, when that becomes a tool where I'm like, this is directly preventing me from getting to that next level. But it's hard knowing how social media works, that you have to play the game, but you also, I think it's just the more reps I get, the more I'll be comfortable with it. But I have such a resistance and such a almost like a I can't stand it. Like I but it's just because that's what I deal with every day. And I've seen people, I talk to my friends that are my age that do legitimately get influenced by people that they watch on social media. And it hurts me because I know in some respects, I know the quality of that person's character. And I know how much of it is smoke and mirrors. And I know the way that you get all the things and how you present it in a way. Because like it's called the subtle art of flexing. And I teach it to every one of my clients. I'm like, how can you, I've like to look at it now of, I think our inputs and what we do every single day is actually what we flex. Because if you live a lifestyle where every night you're going to Mastro's or every night you're going to this place, like by all means, that's your life, show it. I'm not saying that, like, I'm not judging whether it's good, bad, indifferent, but if it's a part of your everyday, show it. If you go to the gym every single day, show it, because that is the proof of the consistency of inputs is actually what I think differentiates people from people really are invested in them versus, like they might get really influenced, but once they start to peek through the curtains, it's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, I sold that Rolls Royce just 2 days ago because of this conversation, though, not because of this specific conversation, but because of the topics that we're speaking about right now. People encourage me, like, why don't you post that? And I don't feel comfortable with it. Plus, it's not the type of people I'm trying to attract. You attract a lot of mess with that type of stuff, and it's not serious people. And the guys that I know, the ultra wealthy guys I know, it can actually sometimes be a turnoff. I know some guys that they kind of pair that and link that with trouble, with either liability trouble, IRS trouble, fraud. I mean, when I see youth in Lamborghini, automatically I say fraud. Automatically I say fraud. Because again, you could be making a lot of money, but it doesn't make sense in terms of like assets and liabilities and whatnot. So like, let's just say you're a young guy and you're making like $500K a year. You can afford it, but you can't afford it. Right? Because you're also trading your future wealth and financial stability for these things. So it's like you may have the money, but you don't really have the money, right? Like you own a Lamborghini or something like that. To really feel comfortable, you probably need to have like $10 million in net worth at least. And if you have $10 million in net worth right now, with inflation, it's not really like $10 million in net worth. It feels more like $5 million in net worth. So it still doesn't really make sense to buy the car. It just doesn't. It's
interesting because when I started to understand finances better, it's actually when I was in business, because I understood the energy of money and how money in a business, if you put your money in the right place in a business, you get a massive return on your life, on your business life, in your day-to-day. And I started looking at money as energy in a lot of ways. And when I would go through my account summary every month, I would look at where's my energy going? Where is my energy going? Where is, like, because in a lot of cases, a lot of things on my line item were I was either spending time or spending energy getting something so that way I could enhance my life or whatnot. But it was once I started to recognize that, and then the ego of being 24 years old and being in a business and doing that, the thing that I've, luckily because I have mentors like you guys, is the down days, the down years, the down months, when things go bad. That, like Warren Buffett says, when the sea recedes, and like that's when you start to see who has their pants down. And like that was I didn't get that perspective until you have a bad month in business and you have all this expenses and you have all these people that need to be paid, and you're like, wait a minute, was all that ego that I put into the first class ticket or whatever it was, that like was that worth the stress that I have right this second about what I talked to Ryan about, is like keeping the dream alive, like staying, like, is that more important than every day being able to choose what I get to do, choose to run my business, and choose to pursue what I believe I'm on earth to do? It's like, was that worth it? And a lot of times it's not.
I feel like with you though, as I'm hearing you, there's a lot of stuff I want to take offline, because I feel like it's good that you're asking yourself these questions, but I just think this is like a coaching moment, because there's a balance between some of these things that you're talking about. And it's good that you're thinking like this, but it's also shouldn't be to the point where it constricts. Like, you should be living a good life. You can kind of like measure what you're taking in, what your future expenses are going to be. There's equations for all these type of things, so that it doesn't feel so like stressful or like you're worrying, because I think it's good that you're doing this at a young age, but also you don't want it to limit, your experiences in life and stuff like that. But we'll talk about that more. I do like what you just talked about, though, and I think this is something that a lot of people need to talk about because it's happening right now, was the Warren Buffett statement. And, you're talking about like basically the lake drying up, and to see what's really going on now. And we're going into one of the greatest periods of that right now, and no one's really talking about it. And the fact that they're not talking about it, they meaning like your mass media, your legacy media and stuff like that, to me, people should have the greatest concern right now, because this reminds me of 08, 09, but with less indicators than we had then. And so right now we're experiencing the highest inflation that most people have ever experienced in their lifetime. We're seeing the highest prices in real estate ever. We're seeing commercial real estate defaults just beginning. People buying skyscrapers for $3 million in major U.S. cities, $5 million. We're seeing a group of society that doesn't want to work anymore, is not getting paid enough to work anymore. And we're seeing all these different indicators happening at one time, and the entrance of AI coming in to really stir it all up. And it's causing a situation where just a few years ago, all of this funny money came in like a massive wave, almost like a tsunami type of effect. And now it's all been spent and it's all dried up, and all those debt payments are coming due. All the EIDL payments are coming due. I've never seen a storm like we have today, ever, not in my lifetime. And I haven't read about one in history either. And no one's really talking about right now, but we're already seeing the effects of what you just said, where people are dropping off, because you're holding on as long as you can. But funny money, bro, doesn't last forever. And that social media money was probably the worst use of money that we've ever seen before, right? Because the people, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, before the iPhone, wouldn't have spent that money on the Ferrari, would have said, no, this isn't the right thing to do, wouldn't have rented, wouldn't have done these crazy vacations where they're spending their last time. None of this would have occurred. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens when this water recedes, which is happening right now. And I think, 6 months to a year from now, we're going to be having a different conversation, because of all these things, all these values that we're talking about right now have led people into a really, really, really bad position that some of these people don't have the skills or the introspect or the strength to ever get out of. And I think it's going to be something worthy to pay attention now. So you guys seem to be on the right side of things right now.
I want to take a second, because if I don't do this, I'm going to kick myself in the butt later, because you opened up the door earlier. So I want to circle back on something. Okay. We did talk about psilocybin and DMT for a second. Those two compounds changed my life and ended up helping save my life. I mean, I quit an opiate addiction from a DMT experience. Would you be open to sharing any of your experience with the compounds?
Sure. Psilocybin. One of the things that affected me after that, to give you an example, I was on a conference call the other day outside, and I'm pacing, and I'm back and forth, and I was a little upset. And back and forth, I'm outside. A dragonfly is flying all in my face, and it won't leave me alone. And so I swatted the dragonfly out of my face, and the dragonfly is like laying on the ground, and it's like, zzz, like it's not recovering from this. And I told the guys on the conference call, I was like, oh shit, man. I was like, I got to call you guys back. And I'm sitting out there, and I'm like, damn, dude, like, why did you do that, bro? You know what I'm saying? Like, you didn't have to like just kill this dragonfly, dude. Like, why did you do that? And I was like pissed about it. I wasn't like delusional. I'm not intoxicated. I wasn't on anything, but I was just pissed because I was like, bro, like that was just really unnecessary for you to do that. And I started thinking about it. I was like, why is this affecting me like this? It's not a bad thing. And it's an example I'll use for the way that I've thought about everything when I'm interacting with people. And I'm being serious here. And I'm not saying, again, I have to say this over and over again. I'm not a perfect person. I still have some, trust me, my body always wants to go left. I always want to go to party in Miami Beach and get on a boat and kick it and with my friends and drink. I always want to do that, right? I know I'm not supposed to do, I know it's not doing anything for me, but I always want to do that. So for me, I'm always trying to self-correct and go to the right. And that really changed the way I interact with people, my kids, my wife, my staff, people on the street. It's like a super conscious effort to really try to do the right thing with people and not cause them harm, and to be understanding and to self-correct and to understand what you're doing, whether it's a person, a bug, an animal. It just created this massive awareness of respect for life. And I can definitely say that it's impactful in a positive way for me. And it's impacted the way that I talk to myself. It's impacted the way I'm able to speak to people. It's impacted the way I'm able to connect with people and listen to people and understand, and to value my time, and to value every breath that I take, and every time that I'm able to walk out of bed, and how I'm able to deal with tragedies and death and everything, you know, and understanding that this is way deeper than what they taught us in school. It makes me upset that again, we're going to be looked at still as quacks today for speaking about this, but it makes me sad, and it also makes me happy, and in a good way. And it also makes me have less value for formal education for my kids, because I know that they're actually hurting my kids past learning 1 + 1, 2 + 2, and things of that nature. I tell my kids now, I want you to be interesting people. That's what I need you to do. I need you to be interesting, and I need you to be able to read a P&L, but I need you to be interesting people. I need you to be good people. I need you to be strong people. And they're not teaching this shit in school, and they're making you feel stupid because you can't sit still and all these different things. And they're trying to crush what the experience gave me. They're trying to take that away from you. And people think that that's a conspiracy. It's not. You're not able to be controlled. Someone who goes deeper into these experiences can get to a point that they can be so stoic, which is why you have people, and I'm not saying it's because of DMT or mushrooms, but I'm saying this is why you've had monks and people who can light themselves on fire and sit there. And I'm not making this up. You go watch the video. They can sit there and be on fire as they're passing and not say anything, because they're reaching this place inside them that nobody wants you to get to. The DMT experience was different. And the DMT experience, I saw what everybody else saw in that, by the way. They say everybody sees this one thing. I saw that thing, that drawing that everybody has. I saw that. I had a shaman at my house outside with my wife, and they had sound bowls. And when they did whatever they were doing with the sound bowls, I have never, ever experienced or seen anything like that in my life. But it is the thing that those people see. And it taught me. And I saw fabric, meaning that I was actually able to see the makeup of everything. And I felt like it was the Truman Show. And then I believe there's a Truman Show because I was like, this is some bullshit. I now knew that. I was like, so when I look at people now, I'm able to go into certain situations that other people would be like, damn, that's crazy, whatever. And I can just be like, bro, you're full of shit. Or you have no leverage over me now. How are you gonna harm me? You're gonna take away my finances? You're gonna fire me? You're gonna cancel me? Great. You know what I'm saying? The more, it just frees me even more, you know? And so it took away my fear of death, even though I don't want to die. Yeah. I don't want to die, by the way. I don't want to die. I want to live a long life. I want to be with my children and family, but it took away my fear, and it really just open up the way I look at people and things. It's helped me greatly. I can't articulate enough some of these things, but I will tell you, and I got it tattooed on my wrist, I truly believe, and this is not a hallucination, that this is not real, bro. Yeah. And people who are bought in, that's why I can't talk to people with the designer stuff, by the way, because if you're bought into designer, bro, Like if that's like really like a big deal to you, it's so polar opposite from reality, bro, because you're just being sold on top of being sold on top of being sold about something that means nothing at all. And so it was a huge experience for me. I would encourage anybody to do that. I wish my dad would sit down and do it with me, especially at his age, and not be afraid, or anybody who is afraid. I wish they would do it. And I'm sorry if I'm just going on and on, but it was very impactful. And I do notice one health benefit. Here's a tangible health benefit I noticed from psilocybin. And this is interesting. So I wear Whoop, and I'm in a Whoop with 5 other guys. They're all black male professionals, all college educated, all have good jobs. But what I notice is that stress, especially in the United States, is not allocated proportionally to different groups. I do believe that being that they are black males, that they have more worries and concern. None of them have rich parents. None of them have inheritance coming. None of them have life insurance policies. Everybody's on their own, and they're all fighting for their kids and trying to be better people. So the reason I bring this up is because none of them sleep well. None of us sleep well. And there's something called heart rate variability, which really is, I believe, attached to the mind versus the physical. So all of our heart rate variability is extremely low, and it also points to us having a shorter lifespan versus other people who I monitored, especially other racial groups and demographics of the same level who have much, much higher HRVs. There's nothing different. We all train the same. We all are the same age, but there's more comfort over here. And so what I noticed is that psilocybin, when you take psilocybin, it has shot my heart rate variability up by 216% sometimes into the green zone. Why? Because it's going in there and it's doing something to tell my mind to calm and that everything's going to be okay. And that's a physical, tangible health benefit that I'm seeing. It's measurable. It's scientific. I'm not a doctor. I have the results, and it's true. And so it's been positive.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm not encouraging people, by the way, to go out and start doing all this stuff recreationally or whatever.
No.
I'm encouraging you to be introspective, to seek betterment, to be maximally accountable, and then seek just understanding that maybe you're not able to get right now because of all the noise and all the electronics and all the distractions and the news and all that. That's what helped.
I kind of question for you guys. I worry about something like that for the feeling of the connectivity to others, like the feeling of feeling other people's pain at such a high level. That's a fear for me, and I think that's a fear for others. It's not something to worry about.
Bro, I'm not a bitch because of this stuff, dude. It didn't turn me to a pussy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No.
I'm not going to accept your excuses.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to accept your bullshit, you know? You're empathetic, respectful, kind, and peaceful, but I'm not buying your bullshit, dude. You know, so trust me, like if somebody's just bringing drama and emotion and all that stuff around, doesn't mean I'm not going to be like, hey, you know, get out.
Empathetic savage. You know what I'm saying? It's like, listen, like, I know when I need to be gentle for people when they're in a very vulnerable state. But
also,
like
looking at that dragonfly that Carlton was talking about, why did I smack that dragonfly? I didn't deserve it in that moment.
it definitely makes you more aware of like being good and gentle when you need to be and not being harmful or hurting other people. But at the same time, though, it actually did the opposite of what you're worried about for me, because I know what I need to focus my energy on now. And if it's not making positive things happen or building the company or being good to my family and stuff like that, I have no time for it. And I have no time for anybody slowing me down at all either. Like, I know when to be soft and I know when to be like, this is the chatter, like, go, go, go.
I took 100 milligrams of psilocybin yesterday, and last night I came from a movie with my son, and I was on the phone with my wife, and we were telling jokes or whatever, and it was the first time in so long that I was just, and I'm not talking about an intoxicated laugh or anything like that. I was just like happy and just laughing, and I just couldn't stop laughing. I'm not talking about intoxication. I just was like, I just felt comfortable, man. And I was really enjoying joking around my son. I wasn't distracted, wasn't intoxicated, I wasn't drunk. He said something funny, and I was just able to just appreciate it being funny. And it wasn't because of anything other than that. I was just focused on him, and he was funny, and we just had a good time. And it's been so few and far between for so long for myself and most people, and understandably, because you don't really have time for that kind of stuff. Can't relax, And I was like, it's definitely because of the psilocybin that day. It was 100 milligrams. And it was just simply because I was just open to listening to him, and I maybe you can explain that better. This is something that you're way more aware and knowledgeable about, but why would that be the case?
When you take a microdose of psilocybin, it allows you to be just present and open to that moment and just so in that moment, and all the other things that would distract you before don't distract you. And you, like, I had this beautiful moment. I probably took about a gram of mushrooms, and I was just laying under a palm tree, and I laid there for like 3 hours, and I could never do that. Like, that's not, I'm go high performer, had to go play with my son, but he was with my mom at the time. And I laid there, and I just watched the palm tree sway in the wind. And it was just the most beautiful open moment where I could just enjoy everything that was around me and not be distracted by absolutely anything.
I have a question for you as well. Why do the trees and the plants, this is going to sound crazy, people, I'm sorry, guys, I'm sorry. Sorry.
That's Charles.
But why, and nothing else, not the table, not these poles, nothing. The plants, the trees, why do they talk to you or communicate? And I shouldn't say talk, guys, again, not crazy here. You become aware of they are living, breathing things, and that they're breathing, and you're actually able to see them breathe. Why?
Frequency. You're on a different frequency.
That, and it's like, so the interconnectedness of everything as being this big organism. Like, meaning that, like, and I've had this conversation on the, other podcasts and stuff with these guys present. It's like, it's all one big living organism. And it's like at a quantum level, when you break everything down to the energetic state, or like, and it's like we're all just a bunch of atoms floating around it's like, but it's all a part of the same organism. So it is all alive, man. And that sounds super woo woo and some like, like, oh, are you a tree hugger now? Kind of stuff like, but the fact is it actually is. And on a macro dose of a psychedelic experience that I had one time, I needed to ground myself because my body was vibrating so hard, like I couldn't even, I felt like I was going to explode. And you can ground yourself by putting your hands on a tree.
Wow.
And I put my hands on the tree, and the tree reached down and hugged me and told me it loved me, man. I know that sounds completely crazy. It said, "I love you, brother." That's what the tree said. And it was like, it was incredible. It was one of the most, like, I'd never had any kind of experience like that happen. So, like, I do believe that everything is alive like that, and it has a level of consciousness.
Yeah, I wish we could communicate this, though, to people, to make sure that we don't sound woo-woo, that everybody understands that you're a functioning business owner, parent, not a junkie.
No.
I do believe also that the DMT allows people to glitch the system. That's, to me, the way I could describe it to people. You're not supposed to be able to do that. It's a glitch. It's a cheat code to see behind the curtain of the system.
Shit.
It's a glitch.
It's so listen, like, if this was the movie The Matrix, then DMT would be the red pill. It literally unplugs you from the system. I have people at our clinic, and see, because an intramuscular shot of ketamine at our facility is like an hour-long DMT trip. Yeah. That's way more navigatable, and you can actually retain the information. And I have professionals that run huge companies and stuff coming out of their treatments, and they're screaming, I just got unplugged from the matrix, like at the top of their lungs, because they realized that the entire system. And listen, when I'm talking about this, I want to clarify it. I'm not talking about, like, being unplugged from this massive simulation, which who knows. But the thing is that there's a matrix of society, meaning this program that society's running on. And this goes back to Gucci and Louis and all of this stuff. What's really important, and consume, consume, consume. And all of the distractions that are being thrown at you to keep you totally like a chicken with its head running off or cut off, running in all these different directions, being distracted of what the actual reality of what we are living is. DMT and a macro dose psychedelic experience will lift up the veil, and you get to take a peek back, and you're like, oh my gosh, I've been so worried about all of the wrong things that don't really matter. And it's like, and I believe that, like, when you want to go back to the like war aspect, it's like it's almost a war on the vibration or the frequency that we're at, because we already talked about, like, okay, like fast food being so accessible, wearing designer and all of this stuff, all of these low vibrational states that it keeps people at. And then all of a sudden you realize that none of that stuff doesn't matter anymore. And that if we're all a part of it and we're all connected, and that, like, I have this like, we're all extensions of the divine, I like to call it, right? And so, like, now I'm going to level up by raising my vibration and not putting my energy into that low vibrational stuff. That's breaking free from the system. Once you raise your vibration to a certain frequency where you break free from that lower vibrational state, or like that zombie-like mentality where everybody's just kind of it's the hamster on the wheel running. That breakthrough experience on a psychedelic gets you to step off the hamster wheel and be like, I've been running in the same place the whole time and I'm not getting anywhere.
Yeah, man, it's funny while you're talking right now. I'm thinking, I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking, I can understand why this is a scheduled substance, and I can understand why people don't want people to take this, because low vibration is so profitable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so it's very profitable, super, super profitable. This is not a conspiracy. I'm just saying it's profitable. Like, again, that's why I invest in some of these stocks, because I need some gains. Like, it's profitable. And at the same time, I also would be worried about the masses taking this, because the reason why we have such a hard time communicating with certain people sometimes is because they won't go do the same thing. They won't go to their jobs.
So I've actually
they won't be open to taking orders from you if they think like this, because they'll just be, well, why, this doesn't make sense for me. I would rather do something else. Maybe I'd rather be helping people. Maybe this company I'm working at, you guys are hurting a bunch of people. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not helping anybody. You know what? I'd rather just make less money and help more people. And you'd have a lot of that happening everywhere, and it's not good for business.
No, it's listen. So like even though I'm a huge advocate, and it's like, I look at my entire life's purpose as helping people through these compounds to heal now, I also say that if everybody took this stuff all at once, society would completely shut down, because they would be like, oh my gosh, I've been fooled, I've been tricked the whole time, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And listen, like, I'm a big believer in that, like, maybe not everybody is supposed to wake up. Okay, I would love for that to happen, but I live in the absolute, or the oneness of everything, right? So I look at everything as a reflection, and see, the thing is that a lot of the darkness or the negative things that happen in this life are happening because it's a learning lesson for everybody else. And so it's like, we have to be studiers of the dark. I have a lot of these things that look at as being negative. I mean, we can even go to 2020 when we all know what happened. And the thing is that everybody freaked out and they're just like, like what's going on? Is it the end of the world or da 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 da? And the truth is that
Even the dark is divine.
even the dark is divine.
Going a little bit deeper on that, it was one of the darkest moments of last year for me, but yet the most enlightening moment that I've ever had was when my cousin passed away. And he didn't just pass away by, he ended up getting murdered. And it was this really deep feeling of me and him grew up side by side together for pretty much from when I was 2 until we were 16. And we were on this path together where we did everything together. So it was like this decision was made as a collective. We're going to go play football. We're going to go do all these things. And then at 16, there were multiple micro decisions that were made that sent him on his path and sent me on mine. And it was razor thin. So for example, like the moment that I look at was the moment he was, I think, 12, and he had a buddy who was, his grandfather was like letting the kids smoke weed at 12 years old. Now, if we know anything about the mental makeup, it's like, that's probably one of the most detrimental things you can do at that age, because those synapses aren't competing with, like, it was this moment in time where that decision was made. And what we were talking about the dark and how that is a reflection of like, hey, this is what life could be. But ever since that moment, I'd lost a person that I had already mourned that loss of that human in my life. But it was like this reminder for me when it finally came to a head and he passed away. I had to sit with that reality of like, things in this life are so simple. Like one decision. Think about, Charles, your experience. Like there was probably one moment that kept you on the path, change your trajectory to be where you are now, where most people don't get that opportunity, don't take that opportunity. So it was just like, this isn't obviously psychedelic, but it was one of those moments where I'm connecting to what you guys are saying, because I understood how fragile and how out of control we actually are in a lot of cases, which gave me a lot of peace.
So I'm gonna go to the from a dark to light scenario, and from like a hurtful, like my best friend who was like my little brother, Nico, he died probably is coming up on a couple of years ago. No, a couple of years ago from a fentanyl overdose, and he left behind a beautiful wife and two children. And it's a really tough situation. And I had to sit there and live in the absolute and be like, why did this happen? And like I have a clinic that helps people stop this stuff, and how come I couldn't help them? And I'm not saying that this is why it happened, but one I will show from the dark to lightness, as part of the Warriors of Consciousness, I also started the Nico LaGrassa Legacy Fund. And so people can donate directly to Nico's fund to help save people's lives that are suffering from substance abuse issues, and we'll put them through treatments for free at the facility. And one day when I grow this thing big enough, I'm going to raise, millions and millions of dollars, and we're going to save so many people's lives that are going through the same thing that Nico went through, that his death will be looked at as more of a beautiful thing rather than such a hardship, because that's like how you gotta. And even so, like Nick Stanstonato, he talks about his brother passed away from an opiate overdose, and he talks about it when he's speaking on stage, and he's like, the first thing I had to do is be like, what was positive about this? Okay. And the truth is he's like, well, he's not suffering anymore. He's not having to live like that anymore. And so I think that's one thing that we always have to do, is be able to look at a situation, no matter how dark it may be at that time, and say, I might not understand it now, but in the end, it'll play out to where I understand why this happened, and it'll end up making something beautiful occur.
That was because that wasn't the first loss. I'd obviously lost my dad when I was 15 to leukemia. And that was one of the first moments I got that. I looked at it as I didn't understand it in the moment, but the pain was so hard. Like it was so difficult to deal with that moment that all I could tell myself is there has to be a reason, because there's no way I'd be experiencing this if there wasn't purpose behind it. And it was like at 15, I think about my 15-year-old brain. I'm like, man, I wish I could go back to that mindset once in a while, you know, when things get hard. But it was like one of those shifts of like, I'm not going to learn through anything other than trial. You know what I mean? Going through situations like this gave me a perspective on mortality. It allowed me to be 15 and understand that like, this isn't like, most people don't get the understanding that this is cherished. Like what we're doing right now, the living a day-to-day life, like being able to wake up and like you talk about have four limbs, be able to walk, be able to talk, all these things. You don't think that that's a really big deal until you're faced with mortality, until you're faced with loss. And so it's interesting to hear this, because I think people that haven't experienced psychedelic medicine and haven't plant medicine and things, that we've all been through something that showed us, lifted that curtain up. And I think it's interesting to see that it's just by the frame that you view it. And everything we've talked about is framing and perspective. And it's, I don't know, it's a enlightening conversation.
For sure. So I got, so Carlton, what's next for you, man? What do you have your sights on now? What's your next move?
Great question. I'm trying to narrow in on that right now. Earlier we talked about finding an opportunity in a hole in a space. It wasn't by design per se, but it was just instinctual. Like, this can be done better. I think I can do this better. Let's go for it. I just wanted to be able to pay my bills. I wanted to be rich, but like, it wasn't like we got to get rich and we got to get the cars. You know, it was like I just didn't want people talking to me crazy anymore. I just wanted to be like treated halfway decent. And I wanted to prove, I think, to people that you can actually run a company and talk to people nicely and be profitable and successful without treating people bad and screwing them over. And so those things led to the success I have now. But now it's a business. You know, it's a big franchise, and I don't like some of the responsibility that comes along with that. I don't like for instance, I'm not in my Forever Young shirt right now. I'm doing that because I want to say what I want to say. I want to do what I want to do. I want to. We just talked about the freedom. We talked about not being caught up in what we think is meaningful versus what maybe truly is, and what other people are telling you is meaningful. You know, corporate life has done that to so many of us, and so I hate that. I call myself a corporate refugee, and I'm sharing that with you because what I think I'm going to go into right now is helping corporate refugees and helping people and freeing people's minds to understand that the work that they're doing, that they hate, and the labor and the hours that they're putting in can be converted into something that they love doing, and can be converted into value and into equity, and into allowing them to even just be able to have a conversation about this stuff. People sitting in corporate America, bro, they come in here, you work for like, you know, I don't know, Bank of America or some big company, you're going to lose your job talking about a lot of things we're talking about today. That's insane.
Yeah.
And so I hate that. Like, I want to kill that, you know? And for me, it's something worthy to get up and fight for. And so I believe that that'll probably be my next move, is to help people on both sides of my expertise, which is franchising businesses, becoming a franchisee, or telling people like, hey, look, I'm really, really good at small business, and helping people with that. But by helping, I also mean charging, because now I'm confident in what my abilities are, and that I can help people and bring value to their lives, and not only in a financial sense, but a financial sense with well-being. You know, that's why, you know, you're saying some of the things you were saying earlier. It's like, let's talk offline, because I can see through your matrix of your 20-year-old matrix right now. Like, it just comes so clear, and it comes from pain, and it comes from hardship. It comes from doing all the wrong things, dating the wrong person, doing substances I shouldn't be doing, stealing, doing, criminal activity, whatever it is, and say, whoa, like this is not the way, bro. And then also from being depressed and not being in peace, and understand how that actually does impact your health, and how like we're robbing so many kids and families of like being present. And so those are the things that occupy my mind 24/7. And that's the way I believe I'll be able to add value to people. And that's why I'm sitting here with you today, is because I want to build awareness, and I want to challenge people in terms of my personal brand to go and do the research, to go do due diligence on me. And if they believe that I'm worthy of helping them out, then that's what I'm here for. And I'll create value from doing this, but also create massive value for other people and freeing them. And so I think maybe we're on the same type of journey. It's a different type of journey than Forever Young. But at the end of the day, you got to feel good about what you're doing. If you're exposed to the things that we've just talked about, the one thing I will tell people is that if you experience some of these things that we're talking about, you'll never really go back to being able to just lie to yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're never going to be able to go back and just like go to that job that you hate anymore. That's not happening. That's not happening at all. And so I would like to be a part of that until the day that I die. And through this process, I have 3 children that I want to live as an example for, and a wife who has worked tirelessly to help me out in my business and endeavors, who deserves a break and some peace. And so that's what I'm trying to provide right now. And then I do want to do some ignorant entrepreneur stuff. I do want to charter some boats. I'm sick of flying in commercial. Like, that's going to stop. That is part of my mission, is to not fly in commercial, because I feel like flying in commercial also is just like being asleep a lot of the time, because that is a situation in which people treat you like the lowest form of not even a human. They treat you lesser than a dog sometimes in those situations. And so that really, really disturbs me. And so, yeah, that's what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to help people franchising a business, buying a franchise that frees you up and allows you to build equity and value and time for your family or the life that you want to live, and spreading that message as much as possible. And I hope it works out, so.
Heck yeah, man. That sounds
That was
amazing.
an absolutely amazing show.
That was
Yeah.
This was fantastic.
Great conversation.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
all right. Well,
Thank you.
thank you guys for watching the Myself Wellness podcast. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment. What do you want to see next? We appreciate everybody that watches and views. We are only here because of you guys. If you guys want to check out anything in terms of Myself Wellness, what we talked about, please hit the link in the description, and we will catch you guys on the next one.